Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the webinar, Cities and Businesses Tackling the Tourism Plastic Crisis, organized by WWF and the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative. We are waiting for a few more people to join us. Thanks a lot. We're really happy that this webinar got so much attention from everywhere, from the Mediterranean, Europe, Asia, and all other continents. We're gonna wait a couple of more minutes before we start to let everybody to join. Okay, I think we have reached the critical number of people. So welcome everybody to the webinar, Cities and Businesses Tackling the Tourism Plastic Crisis. I'm Stefania Campogiani, Regional Manager on Plastic Pollution at WWF Mediterranean, and I will be moderating today's webinar together with Svitlana Mikhalieva, Coordinator of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program. First of all, I want to thank our panelists that are joining us today, and all of you who are participating. A few information before we start. The webinar of today will last for 2 hours. We are recording the webinar, and after we're gonna share with you the link to the recording so that you can go back and watch, some of the presentations that you're going to be seeing today, or and hopefully share, this webinar with your contacts. We invite your questions to the webinar. We are going to collect, the questions for the final session of question and answer. You find a box at the bottom of the menu of the Zoom question and answer. So we invite you to write your questions directly there. We're going to collect this and collect them at the end, of the of the debate. If you want to address your question directly to one of the panelists, please include the name or the specific of the panel directly in your question. Otherwise, we will keep the question open for the panel. And with this, I want to briefly present to you the agenda, what we're going to have today. We are going to start with a brief introduction of the two global initiatives that has put us together. First, we start with the WWF Plastic Smart Cities Initiative, and and then we move to the Global Plastic Tourism Initiative, and then we're going to hear the voice of representatives from the cities, first starting with the city of Paris with Leila Durix, and then Elena Barakunoges from Barcelona, Ruza Kovacevic-Bilic from Trogir, and Stephanie Lim from WWF, who will present us the case of the Sentosa Island. And then we move to the cases of representatives from the business sector, with Vasilis Karakousis of the Temis Group, Costa Navarino in Greece, and Christian de Boer of the Jaya House River Park, Cambodia. Before we enter the core of the discussion, I want to give you two facts that really show us why we have decided to put cities and tourism today together. Jessica, please, this next slide. The first fact is that out of the 400 million tons of plastic generated worldwide each year, 75% originates from cities. And the second fact, directly from the Mediterranean, which is the region where I'm based, where I live, and it is one of the world leading tourist destinations, it is estimated that summer tourism produces about 40% more marine litter. And with this, we start. I give the voice to Jessica Chia, Monitoring and Evaluation Manager at WWF Plastic Smart Cities Initiative. Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks, Stefania. Yes, so I will share a bit about the WWF Plastic Smart Cities work. And just briefly, we do have two main approaches in terms of there's a twin approach, piloting on-ground solutions in terms of doing actual work on the ground with cities, coastal centers, and tourism hotspots across the globe, working to combat plastic pollution. And we also working on knowledge to scale a global movement. So essentially bringing together best practices and understanding what works best in terms of tackling the plastic pollution. So we do have a website that is available externally for anyone to view and understand different interventions that can be done on the ground to scale back and reduce our plastic leakage. So currently we have Plastic Smart Cities work across the globe in over 50 cities. And that's also still growing in terms of the movement of more cities coming on board and wanting to do more in terms of reducing the plastic leakage in the cities. And with that, each city approaches the journey in a different way. So we do have the Plastic Smart City journey, and this is the general framework that each city follows. Not all will follow each of the steps, but we do typically start with a pledge from the cities in terms of pledging to become a Plastic Smart City and reducing plastic leakage within the city. And with that, we encourage a baseline to be done for the city's waste flow and scope to really understand where the plastic leakage gaps are. And from there, once we find out where the gaps are in terms of the leakage, cities would then come up with a city action plan to address the city waste flow and scope, and engaging various businesses and stakeholders that essentially generate plastic waste and also tackle ways to address the waste infrastructure in terms of improving the collection system and recycling systems. And this is where I guess we work with the tourism industry as well, where there is plastic waste generation. And overall, in terms of my particular role, it's around monitoring progress. And so with that, we do have data collection tools and templates involved to monitor our reduction of plastic leakage, our collection and recycling, and understanding how that really translates into our plastic leakage reduction at the city level. So this is essentially the Plastic Smart City journey and suite. And with that, we have indirect interventions and direct interventions. So with indirect interventions, we have examples of awareness raising, such as public campaigns in both Izmir and Venice, from the Mediterranean examples, and also direct interventions in terms of waste segregation in Izmir and direct cleanup of the canals in Venice as well. So these are just to give you a snapshot in terms of the Plastic Smart Cities work that's done globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Perfectly on time. So, and now, from a global initiative for cities to another very ambitious global initiative with Svetlana Mikhayeva, the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative.
Thank you so much, Stefania, for leading this organization. And also thank you so much, Jessica, for very interesting presentation. I hope this webinar will, let's say, even further strengthen our collaboration with WWF and the Plastic Smart City project and the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative that I will be presenting to you here today. I have seen we have quite a few GTPI signatories that connected today. Very grateful. And apologies to GTPI signatories who know already the initiative. For you, I will be a bit repetitive, but I think it would be still interesting to present the GTPI and how we operate to the WWF network present here as well. So I'm Svetlana Mikaleva, coordinator of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program. I'm based in the Industry and Economy Division of the United Nations Environment Program. Next slide, please. So the One Planet Network and its Sustainable Tourism Program, we are mandated by the United Nations General Assembly to implement Sustainable Development Goal 12 on sustainable consumption and production. And our global network comprises governments, businesses, academia, NGOs, and business associations. And our goal is to provide leadership, concrete pathways, and practical tools that are tailored to the unique, let's say, challenges and opportunities of the tourism sector. For instance, we offer guidance on measures that ministries of tourism can undertake to combat climate change, and actions that accommodation businesses can implement to tackle plastic pollution. And our program, as you can see on the screen, is organized around 3 main work streams on plastics, climate, and food systems. But today, I will be, of course, focusing my presentation on the critical issue of plastic pollution and in the context of urban tourism. Next slide, please. So as mentioned by Stefania, and I will repeat a bit, some striking facts and figures about plastic pollution in the context of urban tourism. So, as many of you know, plastic pollution presents threat to human health and to the environment. Annually, we produce over 430 million metric tons of plastics, and over 2/3 of this plastic produced becomes waste very fast. So basically the issue of single-use plastics. The detrimental effects on marine ecosystem include physical and chemical harm to animals, as well as decreased biodiversity. As for human health, the risk they arise from open burning of plastic waste, consumption of contaminated seafood, and exposure to pathogens associated with chemicals and plastics. And cities, as mentioned by Stefania, are facing approximately 288 million tons of plastic waste entering municipal streams each year. So cities are at the forefront of addressing this crisis. 75% of global plastic waste is converging in urban areas. And the challenge, of course, for local governments, especially in low and middle income countries, is monumental. And the disparity between the ambition of proper waste management and current capacities necessitates urgent action, as waste production is projected to increase by 73% by 2050 in comparison with levels of 2020, while the global plastic recycling rates currently less than 10%. Next, please. So what can we do in the tourism sector? The objective of the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative is to end plastic pollution generated by tourism activities and promote circular economy responses. The initiative was launched in 2020, just before the global pandemic. And despite the very complex context, it encountered great enthusiasm from the tourism sector. It was our very first commitment-based initiative that we developed in consultation with tourism businesses, business associations, and global experts on circular economy and on plastic pollution. So the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative, or GTPI, acts as sectoral interface of the New Plastics Economy Global Commitment. It is led by UNEP and the World Tourism Organization with technical support of Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Next, please. So the initiative calls businesses, destinations, supporting organizations to develop commitments around following principles that you can see listed on the screen in hierarchical order, starting from the most impactful. First, take ambitious action on elimination of problematic and unnecessary plastic packaging and items. Second, pre-request commitments around introduction of reuse models. Then, in case some plastic items and packaging can't be avoided, we encourage tourism stakeholders to collaborate with suppliers to obtain packaging with increased recycled content. We also recommend to work with municipalities and waste management companies to improve recycling and composting rates of plastics. And of course, the annual reporting on progress is essential to track results. And this is something we have in common also with WWF project. So reporting is the requirement for this initiative, and more specifically, signatories with heavy use of plastics, such as accommodation providers, cruise lines, suppliers of tourism amenities, have to measure weight of plastics in their operations annually, which allows us to track progress in terms of plastic consumption from one year to another, and drive this exercise of transparency within the industry. So far, the initiative has been growing steadily for the past 3.5 years with great enthusiasm and active participation from tourism industry stakeholders, including largest global hotel chains and SMEs. And now we reached over 120 signatories, with 70% of them being businesses. Next, please. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So all of these requirements, they are adapted to different types of stakeholders and specificities of their operations. For instance, a hotel chain will have to tell us in which areas they will completely remove plastics and by when, while a business association or a booking platform or NGO, they will commit to promote solutions, for instance, around elimination among their member businesses. So as you can see, all tourism stakeholder has a role to play, and we are requiring commitments that are specific to the operations of each of them. Next, please. So what do we recommend in terms of actions on city level specifically? Efforts by local governments could include, for instance, enacting single-use plastic bans, or work on sectoral level around voluntary elimination of single-use plastics across tourism value chains, by mobilizing tourism businesses, by mobilizing suppliers, and supporting sectoral coordination effort, which is essential, and we will talk about this today. By enhancing waste collection, management, and recycling systems, by promoting reuse and circularity to significantly reduce plastic pollution, including through communication campaigns. And I would like to reiterate here that importance of communication campaigns shouldn't be underestimated, actually, because it's essential for the effective enforcement of all of other measures we are working to implement. So today we will have several presentations from city representatives, and very much looking forward to learn about the ambitious solutions they have been implementing. And tourism businesses, as I mentioned, they are key stakeholders to tackle the issue of plastic pollution on the level of cities, because value chain collaboration is essential again. Next, and it will be my last slide. Next, please. So I wanted to mention that we help our signatories with implementation of their commitments. Our signatories help us identify knowledge gaps that may prevent them from tackling the issue of plastics. So they help us prioritizing tools that needs to be developed, and they participate in the process of development of these tools. As an example, during our first reporting exercise, when accommodation businesses started measuring weight of plastics in their operations, several multinational businesses reported to us quite surprising data. They discovered together with us that in many countries and properties where they are operating, cling film that is used in kitchens to wrap food, it represents in weight as much as plastic bottles in their operations. And before this measurement exercise, they didn't know that cling film represented such a problem, and we didn't neither. So what we did to address this issue is that we organized a series of technical workshops between our signatories, their staffs, their technical teams, and our experts on reuse, to identify and pilot reuse solutions to plastic items that are considered as particularly difficult to remove. Just an example. On the screen, you can see different tools and recommendations we have already developed in the past upon the request and in consultation with our signatories. You can see here cover of procurement guidance that has checklists, recommended language, tender specifications, and decision trees for procurement departments in hotels and cruise lines. We also 2 years ago issued the methodology and tool to measure plastics in the operation of tourism companies. And this allows us now to measure the weight of plastics in operations of our signatories. And we are currently developing recommendations on integration of circular economy of plastics in the tourism policies. So recommendations that target mainly ministries of tourism, but hopefully would be also relevant for the local and municipal governments. So over on my side, and thank you again, WWF colleagues, for this great opportunity to exchange experience and to discuss concrete solutions. Thank you. Over to you, Stefania.
Thanks a lot, Svetlana. Really it's an impressive amount of knowledge that these two initiatives are putting together. And I think, you know, the value of these two initiatives and the reason why we decided to put them together, and I hope there's going to be more of these webinars in the future because of the interaction and the need for interaction between cities, destinations, and the business sector is, on the one side, as we were saying, the need, you know, for analysis, monitoring, which are part of the two initiative. So support, you know, for this. On the other side, providing solutions, you know, what others are doing, exchanging on solutions. So both initiatives have, you know, powerful and growing knowledge platforms where you can find and look, you know, for various solutions from from policies to technological solutions, innovative solutions, and last but not least, the reporting, the monitoring and measuring success. And a lot of ambition. So, and with this word of ambition, I give the word to Lila Durix from the city of Paris, who will present us the ambition of zero single use in Paris, a city that on one side is a plastic smart city and is hosting, I would say, the most important sport event worldwide, which is the Olympics. And Lisa, please, the word to you for your presentation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Stefania. Good morning to everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you're based. During this webinar, I'm really pleased to present you in a few minutes what is the zero single-use plastic ambition of City of Paris, especially for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. Next slide, please. So I will address three topics. First, what do we understand as the City of Paris by zero single-use plastic ambition, because there is a lot of false friends. What we will achieve and for this summer for the Olympic and Paralympic Games, and in the aftermath of the Games, what would be the long-term change as to make Paris a plastic-free destination. So we can go next slide, please. And then next. So what is the zero single-use plastic ambition? First, we need to understand where does it come from. When I'm going a bit backwards, when Paris was candidate in 2016 for hosting the Games of this summer, we were 6 other cities candidates to welcome these Games, and out of these 6 cities, 4 gave up their candidacy due to the lack of support of the population and the assumed cost of the Games. So it was really unseen to have this unlove of the welcoming the Games. So it was really urgent for Paris, when we were granted with the Games of 2024, to come up with a sound political vision called Olympic transformation to detail how we will have a positive and sustainable impact for Parisians, a positive and sustainable legacy for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. Basically, these were 20 measures, and among them, zero single-use plastic. So what is at stake? We took as a reference the European legislation. A single-use plastic is a packaging totally or partially made of plastic. This is important to recall. And we have a lot of false friends. Aluminium and steel can are single-use plastic. Cardboard packaging are single-use plastic. Bio-based compostable plastic are single-use plastic. I'm telling you this because we have a lot of partners for whom it was not really an evidence to have this wide definition. How do the City of Paris is addressing single-use plastic? Mainly through reduction and reuse. This means that recycled plastic is not a solution to reduce plastic pollution. We don't say that recycling is not a good thing. This is part of the circular economy, but we will address plastic, single-use plastic pollution mainly through reduction and reuse. You can go next. So what we will achieve this year, we are targeting only 3 main uses: food, beverage, and goodies. With 3 levels of action: Olympic and Paralympic Games, Paris territory, and the administration. I will just detail what we will achieve with the Olympic and Paralympic Games. If you need more information, I will be happy to share the 2 other levels of action, but we need to be brief this morning or today. We can go next. So, and then next again, what do we do for the Olympic and Paralympic Games? Before detailing our discussion with Coca-Cola, with the premium partners for beverage, for the Olympic and Paralympic Games, this is important to recall that the city of Paris is not the organizer of the Olympic and Paralympic Games of this summer. We have an organization, a state organization called Paris 2024, who is organizing the game with the Olympic partners. City of Paris is hosting part of the competition site, but this is taking place in many other cities in France. And basically, this is how to say, but we have really few responsibility in hosting the games, despite the fact that we supported the candidacy. So our first step to have zero single-use plastic games was to enter in with a dialogue with Coca-Cola, the premium partners for beverage, on City of Paris territory. Only City of Paris territory, the City of Paris refused the systematic offer of RPET bottles, basically recycled plastic bottles, and we had an agreement with the state organizer Paris 2024 and Coca-Cola to give a priority to bulk and reuse. Reuse, we have an already existing offer of reusable glass bottles, but this is not convenient for large events. So Coca-Cola agreed to develop an already existing solution. This is soda fountains. You find them mainly in fast food, and they adapt it for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. This is the image that you have on the pictures that you have on the right side of the presentation. A soda fountain, this is basically a combination of a plastic pouch, a bag-in-box, combined with tap water and gas. All of them combined together, you recreate on Coca-Cola. And with a bag-in-box of 19 liters of concentrated syrup, you can recreate 200 bottles of Coca-Cola, 100 liters. So this is a really interesting reduction, and we can go next. So basically, we will achieve 3 main points for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. First, for the celebration areas organized by the City of Paris. We will have 26 celebration areas in Paris City, along with a media center. All of them will be plastic-free on food and beverage. This means we'll have reusable food containers, reusable cups for beverage, no individual bottles. We don't have yet the impact. We will monitor this right after the games. For the competition areas in Paris, organized by Paris 2024, we will deploy the soda fountain of Coca-Cola. It's around 256 soda fountains deployed in 10 competitions areas. And we have the estimation that we will have more than 1 million beverages served through these soda fountains or reusable glass bottles. In all areas, reusable water bottles will be made accessible. This is a huge step because it was not possible due to security constraints before, and water fountains will be made available on all sites, all competition and celebration sites. We can go next. We have also 2 legacy change on zero single-use plastic. For this summer, we'll have the first competition race open to the public during the Olympic Games. So the public will be able to run a marathon distance or a 10-kilometer race. Both races will be held without single-use plastic for refreshment stations. This means no plastic bottles, no disposable cups. This ban will continue right after the games for all sports races in Paris. And also, to welcome the games, we will promote tap water. We already have an existing network of 1,200 water fountains and water points in Paris. And inspired by the campaign Refill London of London City, we launched the campaign Here I Choose the Water of Paris. Basically, we have 1,000 shopkeepers engaged in this campaign, and they give access for free to the tap water. We will pursue this campaign after the games and with a target of 2,000 shopkeepers. You can go next. So Paris as a plastic destination, as I already underlined, we'll have 2 major change in the aftermath of the Olympic Games. So the ban of races with single-use plastic will start on September 2024. This will benefit to 650,000 runners every year, and it will make a reduction of 20 tons of single-use plastic everywhere, only with PET bottles. And the promotion of tap water, as I already talked about. We also targeting specific neighborhoods in Paris, the Seine riverbank. So we are hearing a lot about the fact that we will be able to swim in the Seine rivers by this summer, but also Seine riverbanks will be plastic free, not this summer, but next summer. All bars and restaurants will be obliged to serve food and beverage in reusable containers next summer. And we have another river in northern part of Paris, Bassin de la Villette, and we will launch a reusable cups for bars around this area this summer. Also, to mentor the transition, the city of Paris created the first plastic-free label in France for tourist destination. This is for museum, cruiser, restaurants, theater, clubs, and we already have more than 150 venues engaged in this label. So I think next slide, and I'm good for my presentation.
Thanks a million, Leila. I really saw a lot of claps and hearts, really an amazing presentation. We had a long chat, before. First of all, I would like to thank you for joining us today. I guess you are extremely busy with the games, starting soon. I saw also in the comment, Sibylle Riedmiller, who was questioning about, the fact that recycling, we should not only focus on recycling. And I was really waiting for you to give this presentation because there is a strong focus on the reuse elements. And I've been really impressed by the work you're doing. And especially also because this will not stay only with the Olympics. I mean, you're going beyond the Olympics and beyond Paris. And that's my question about really what would you recommend to the next city that will host the game? If you have in a few minutes a couple of recommendations for the next city. It has not been easier. I remember, when you were explaining your work.
Interesting question, because the next city to welcome Summer Olympic Games will be Los Angeles. And this is the heart of Coca-Cola Nation, actually. And we had a lot of discussion with Coca-Cola Company, and especially with the Atlanta HQ, because this discussion was really strategic for them. And the systematic refuse of RPT bottle was really hard for them to understand. Finally, they saw it as an opportunity, because soda fountains will have a second life after the games in Europe. They will equip some stadiums, some festivals. So because Coca-Cola for this game, they ordered around 1,000 soda fountains for all the Olympic Games in Paris but outside of Paris. And all of these soda fountains will have a second life. So I guess for LA, the objective is that for Coca-Cola, they know that this is feasible to host the games without recycled plastic bottles, but also what we missed, we could not go this far for Paris game. It would be ideal to work on athletes, because for athletes we already start seeing some sport federation going on a reusable bottle for athletes. This is the case for the French Federation of Tennis. I think some other federation could be ready to engage the transition. So athletes could be the next target for the next games, and I hope we will inspire Los Angeles for 2028.
I hope so too, and I hope you will inspire Cortina as well, who will host the Winter Olympics in Italy. And with this, I really would like to give the word to Helena Barra, who will take us to some of the measures that you have taken in Barcelona. Another very ambitious and impressive work. When Leila was talking about the engagement with the businesses along the coasts, Barcelona has also done quite a lot of action on that. And so Helena Barak-Nogues, Climate Change and Sustainability Officer at Barcelona City Council, on the Zero Plastic commitment.
Hello, good morning or good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the opportunity of speaking in this webinar on this very relevant issue. Today I'll present the Barcelona Zero Waste Plastic Commitment. And I would like to first give some figures so you have an image of the dimension of our city. Barcelona has 1,600,000 inhabitants, and it's a very dense Mediterranean city, as you might know. It's well known as a touristic destination, and there are more than 15 million tourists in the city every year. So it's a lot. We are now over the pandemic figures, and 15 millions are visiting our beaches in Barcelona. So this means that we are, as you know, a very well-known touristic destination, and we are also very committed with sustainability and climate change issues. We are part of the 100 cities mission of the European Union, and this means that we want to be climate neutral by the year 2030, which is, as you can imagine, very difficult, almost impossible, but there we are. And trying to do our best to do it. And well, there's also a zero waste plan in the city. And Barcelona is also very committed with the sustainability as a biosphere certificate destination. Okay, having said all that, the project I'm presenting today, it's a joint project between the Waste Department and the Climate Change and Sustainability Office. It was born in 2019 as a working group of our participatory council on sustainability. So it's a I would say a bottom-up initiative. No? There were a lot of committed stakeholders that were claiming to have a working group on zero waste, and so we in this working group we decided to settle this commitment up for them to join and to exchange and to lever good practices. This commitment was officially launched in 2021. So it's a quite young commitment, and it's a voluntary commitment. This means that it's not compulsory. So it's just those who want to go a step further can join and then find inspiration and networking opportunities to do better and to showcase their practices. Our main aim is reducing single-use plastic in the city of Barcelona and being this lever of change and catalyst for good practices and initiatives. Next, please. Okay, when we started, there were 47 projects that were highlighted in this working group, and they were mainly related with the consumption of tap water and how to foster non-plastic tap water drinking among the different agents that were committed to it. And now we have more than 250 organizations
Sorry, Elena, we cannot hear you.
Meeting in promoting actions to ban plastic. Now, hola? Yes? Now better? Yes? Yes? Okay, sorry, I don't know what I've done. Okay, you heard me before. Yes, it was just now that you didn't hear. Okay, fine. Okay, and now we have these 250 organizations that are committed with this goal, and mainly these are coming from the food sector, from the from the food sector. Yes, more than 60 projects are coming from the food sectors, and we also have restaurants and hotels and non-food sector businesses. Okay, next, please. Next. Okay, fine. And here you have the type of actions that are within this commitment. First of all, we have the consumption and promotion of purchases with reusable items with 135 initiatives, and these include the acceptance of lunch boxes and or Tupperwares from customers in municipal markets. And we have 50 municipal markets in the city of Barcelona. Many people go and buy there, and you can go with your lunchbox or your Tupperware. And this might seem surprising for some cities, but this is something that it's not really the perception of the Tupperwares was something that we have to do a lot of awareness raising, because normally the plastic use was very used in all places, in supermarkets and in markets in the city. So it's something that we have to work. And then the consumption and offers of products in bulk. So they are not packaged, but you can serve yourself on these products, and also the sale of reusable items. And here you have one of the questions that we have is always, how do we monitor this? And it is very difficult. So we try to do estimates, and only we have some data for those who ask for a reduction on the fee waste. But if not, it's really difficult to really measure the impact of all these actions. Okay, next. Another field of action that we have is the consumption of unpackaged water. This also, for some cities, is surprising because, as a colleague in Paris was saying, no, in London, the tap water is very good, or the perception of people is that the water is very good. And in Barcelona, people think that the tap water has not a good flavor. So then we have also to do a lot of awareness raising, because it is a perfectly drinking water, and maybe in the past it wasn't as good as is it now, and this is something that it has remained on people's minds. So it's something we have to work on. And then, well, we have all the initiatives promoting the tap water consumption in the businesses, in hotels, in restaurants, no? And also that there is an offer of tap water or filtered water. And when you go to a restaurant, you can ask for it, and you should be served this. And not many people know or are aware of that, and not many restaurants are offering this water for free or for paying an amount. So it's something that we are also trying to foster. And also the installation of water fountains in events and also in companies. Next, please. Another of our fields of action is the offer and consumption of foods and drinks in returnable packaging. This means mainly for restaurants and bars. No, there are options that are put in place to offer drinkable products in returnable packaging, and it's well established, but it can be fostered, and that's what we do. Next. And then also in the takeaway food and drink businesses, we are also trying to promote and facilitate the reusable Tupperwares and boxes, lunch boxes. And there are well, some companies that are in charge of putting this logistics in order to make this easier for some companies. And also we try to foster the offer of takeaway food in returnable lunch boxes in restaurants, and also drinks in returnable glasses. Next. And there are lots of initiatives that are now that are in our commitment that are related with the awareness raising activities and greening of activities and caterings, and how to do that without single-use plastic or or packages. And for instance, here you have in the zoo, there are fountains, and now they give you this glass, and you can refill. So water is not served in plastic bottles. Next.
Really now, we have
Okay,
another
all these
3 minutes.
companies that are in this commitment, and we are also working with guilds of the butchers, for instance. So, and we also are working with a supermarket chain or frozen food chains. So they accept the Tupperwares, for instance, when you go to buy the food. Um, we also work with business associations, and they are helping us to facilitate all the information, and also to do the follow-up of all the commitments with their associates. And we also managed to have a waste fee reduction of 10%. So, and in 2023, this means last year, there were 130 requests of this reduction of fee. And this goes from, depends on the business, of course, of the square meters, but it's from 50 to 250 or 300 euros a year. So it's not a lot, but well, it's something, and it's also motivating. It's an incentive that we can give to these companies. Next. And we also give grants for those who want to who have projects of awareness raising or greening events. No, they can ask for 50% of the price of the project, and we can pay. This is the general call, and we have a specific climate grant call in which we can subsidize up to the 80% of the amount of the price of the project. And next, and I'm finishing with that because I'm tired. Okay, we also undertake new projects. We will try to foster a bit more action on the tap water consumption, because we think there's a lot of potential there, and there's still a lot of awareness raising to be done. And we were visiting 25 hotels and 50 restaurants in order to also know their barriers and to see how we could overcome them. And also on the fishing, we've done studies on reduction or elimination of single-use plastic in the fish chain. This means from the point it is collected to the final customer. This are the projects in which we're working now. And then very briefly, I would point out some campaigns that we are doing just because we have a lot of pressure on our beaches. Here you have more information if you want to know the plan with all the initiatives that are in our more sustainable initiatives map. And well, I don't know if we have time, but if not, just if you go quick, maybe I can show you some initiatives we have on our beaches.
Please.
Okay, next. Yes. This is to prevent the web whites coming to our beaches when it rains a lot. We've done an awareness campaign, and also we put these traps because otherwise they were going to the beach. Next. Then we had also this campaign, the sea starts here in the sewers of the city. So we put this sign. So, but because many people throw cigarette butts or things in the sewer, and this goes directly into the sea. We also had this video, and then the last, I think, there are two more. Yes, the use of returnable cups in the beaches restaurants is compulsory, so they cannot serve single-use plastic in the beach. And finally, our beaches are smoke-free. So It's to try to avoid the cigarette butts that were also going to the beach. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thanks a million. Thanks a million, and really inspiring. And you mentioned, I see a lot of claps and hearts also for this very ambitious work. And one point that I wanted to highlight is also, and that's something that was is peculiar to this, is the incentives that you have included in your system. So it's of course on the one side it's a voluntary commitment, but there are also certain incentives, as you were mentioning, you know, the 10% reduction for the waste taxes, and also then grants that would support then, of course, because, you know, for businesses is an investment to put in place, you know, certain changes. Just 1 minute, I want to ask you, what was and what is, you know, the feedback, you know, from the businesses you are engaging? You are mentioning the fact that you were meeting them and collecting, you know, what are the challenges? What are they asking from you?
Well, we have to bear in mind that we are working with those that are more advanced in this commitment. So we are not working with those that are reluctant or they don't want to do anything with that. We prefer to showcase and to lever change, showing what can be done. And so what they are asking is that we make it easier for them to have these economic incentives, and then these incentives are bigger because, and well, I'm in favor of that. I think that we should give more incentives to those who do it well or very well, and it should be easier for them to ask for that. And what they were highlighting about this initiative was the networking opportunities that they had, because they get to know businesses that can help them in order to achieve their commitment, the networking opportunities that they have, and also the incentives. These were the main things they were putting. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've seen also you mentioned the fisheries sector, so I will get back to you on this, because we are working also on the avoidance of EPS, so polystyrene, you know, for fish boxes. We have done, you know, some testing in Italy, so I will be happy to share, you know, what the results of the testing, you know, with the fisheries sector. We move now to another city in the Mediterranean, Trogir in Croatia. So I would like to give the word to Ruza Kovacevic-Bilic. I hope I pronounced well the name, Ruza, head of the Administrative Department of Social Affairs from the city of Trogir, Croatia, another plastic smart city.
Thank you, Stefania. You pronounced it very well. You're so talented for our Slavic names. I'm very honored to be in your company today, especially in the company of the big European cities such as Paris and Barcelona. I'm a little bit embarrassed on my presentation today when I hear about your big numbers and big achievements in this field. So I will present you one case of the small town in the middle Adriatic coast, Croatia. When we were invited to be a part of this global initiative, Plastic Smart City. First, short introduction of our city. It's a small town with only 12,500 inhabitants near Split, 24 kilometers from Split. It has 39 square kilometers space, and one interesting fact, it lays on 4 islands. Old Tankor is on the very small island, and then we have a part of the Chiovo Island with other 2 municipalities, and the 2 smaller islands, Drvenik, big and small. So it's very interesting geographic position of our city, and it's more challenging to have projects done. Next slide, please. So we started our plastic smart city experience from the Sunce Association call together with City of Dubrovnik. We had planned many activities on these projects from 2021. We had numerous activities with our stakeholders. It was firstly and mainly organizers of the events, smaller businesses, tourists, sector holders, and the general public, which were very interested in these activities. Even more because the city of Trogir and the Croatia just started to work on the waste management improvements, waste management on the national level. So we were taking more steps at the time simultaneously. So this was the great opportunity to speak about the plastic smart cities, even from this point of view. First activity which was very good accepted in public is the city council decision of limiting single-use plastic in all public companies which are funded by City of Trogir and its institutions of City of Trogir. It was in September 2021, and implementation started immediately. So we had the first plastic-free events on our Christmas fair and the City Day and Swap Fair in that time of the year. We had campaigns, promo materials, and so on. So we started to promote a Plastic Smart City project very hard at that time. Next slide, please. So we came up with, yes, you can show all, please. We started with the numbers, of course. So I did a research of usage of single-use plastic in our institutions, in our public events, in our every event which was funded by our local government, and we came up with almost 2 tons of the single-use plastic in 2019. I was so shocked that I checked numbers with all my colleagues from finance department, from all the departments. So I couldn't believe that it was almost 2 tons of plastic in our everyday work, like in my offices or in preschool facilities of City of Trogir, or in public events which we were funded. So the city council decision was so natural to make and to explain to the public why we going in such direction. Next slide, please. So this is the number of almost 2 tons in 2019. So we held the action plan steps and promotion. We first contracted suppliers for local administration. We changed our existing contracts about supplies for our administration, and we immediately changed single-use plastic with reusable material. First of all, we served tap water in our offices, and then changed or single-use materials and packaging with reusable. Next, we had a training for organizers of the events, which were funded by City of Trogir. So we presented them the idea of non-using single-use plastic anymore on their events. So they accepted it very well, and they immediately changed. Later, I will tell about challenges with that. Next, we had the educational campaign for citizens to reduce single-use plastic usage in their everyday life and to collect the waste separately, which was not the case since till 2021. Also, we had a support for private businesses with the support from Sunce Association. In support, by support I mean education of alternative solutions and so on. Also, we had a luck to have a synergy with other waste management and green projects which were ongoing in our city at that time. The result is 90% of action plan goals which have been achieved by 2022, and continuously we were following up on them. Next slide, please.
Rosa, you have another 2 minutes.
Okay, this is shortly results. This is separately waste collection of plastics in last 2 years, and these are our plastic-free events which are still ongoing. Next. These are the challenges we are fighting with. Private event organizers we don't have the power to forbid or reduce their work as the private organizers, but we continuously talk to them and educate them on alternative solutions for our city. Also, marinas and other tourism sectors, which we don't have legislative integration on because it's on national or regional level. Also, we are fighting like most Mediterranean smaller towns with over-tourism and seasonality of touristic visits. We mostly have touristic movements in July and August, when in Trogir, such a small town, we have 500,000 of tourists. That is quite a big number for a small town like Trogir. Also, when organizers of the events use single-use alternative materials, they use single-use paper cups, for example, which is also has plastic involved. So we are working on more education for it. So we abandon even that kind of single-use solutions. Also, we are struggling with not enough supply chains for alternative solutions in Croatia. It's still this kind of solutions are still not so spread among the businesses, among the tourists, worker and restaurants and so on. So I would emphasize the lack of national and governmental support on plastic-free projects, and like a stronger support for smaller cities, smaller businesses, and smaller events, even bigger events of national level. It will be helpful for us that governmental support is more stronger.
Thank you, Rosa. We collect the call for this. I really agree with that. On the one side is also the interaction between bigger cities and smaller cities. Trogir came with the follow-up of Dubrovnik. We started with Dubrovnik, a larger city, and at the same time, then Trogir followed with a similar action plan, with similar measures, with similar intervention. If Trogir could do it, then also, if Dubrovnik could do it, then also Trogir, and also taking advantage of the change in the value chain. I mean, we're going to be talking more today about the influence that some cities like you, and on the other side, tourism businesses can have in changing, in leading the change along the value chain. So more sustainable alternative solutions are available. The lower the price and the more acceptable that it becomes also for smaller businesses in applying, and putting in place, similar changes. Thank you, Rosa. I'm concerned about not aware of the time that we are a bit above time, but we're going to catch up with that. So we are going now to Sentosa Island with Stephanie Lim, Head of Market Transformation from WWF Singapore, who will take us, bring us the example of the Sentosa Island in Singapore. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Stephanie. I will be brief. Because I know we're very behind time. So unlike the other speakers, I do not represent the city or the country of Singapore or the Sentosa Island itself. I'm from WWF Singapore, and we are from the market transformation team. We work very closely with corporates, with different stakeholders to improve things like responsible sourcing or initiatives around circular economy, including the guideline that we've created with Sentosa for their various stakeholders on the island itself. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Just so everybody has an understanding, but I think most people already know WWF. This project with Sentosa would then fall under, how can we stop the unsustainable production and consumption of nature's resources to halve the footprint of production and consumption, and of course, carbon reduction. Next, please. So within the market transformation team where I sit and lead, we have this initiative called PACT. PACT stands for Plastic Action. So P from the Plastic, Act from Action, PACT. Together, we actually provide solutions, resources. We also empower businesses to reduce their plastic footprint based on all these guided principles, such as individual commitments, sectorial collaboration, and expertise. So what we do, and not just the Singapore office, actually many different WWF offices also have their own version of PACT that's localized. What we do is really provide that kind of sectorial change and guidelines or capacity building for the various stakeholders. Next, please. So just some numbers. So PACT, we've been quite successful in reducing the amount of single-use plastics in Singapore by getting different major companies in, say, the F&B sector to pledge to, say, have an opt-out function for food delivery, cutlery, for example. Our work has been highlighted by one of our ministers who is heading the sustainability ministry in Singapore. Next. So a little bit about Singapore, because I think maybe not a lot of people know this. Singapore is, of course, one of the smallest countries in the world. We are a country and also a city-state. So that makes it a bit challenging for us to become a plastic smart city itself, because there are many different complications when you're talking both about a country and a city itself. We are 730 kilometers square wide. It will take you about 2 to 3 hours to drive from end to end. And the interesting thing is, while we are so small, we are actually very densely populated. We have about 6 million people. And in 2019, I'm not proud to say this, but we have one of the highest plastic use per capita at 76 kg per person. So that's a lot per year. So I think plastic for us is something that is really under a microscope. While we are very small, the idea is that, hey, we should be able to do a lot of things because we have control over the infrastructure, but sometimes it's not really so. So let's find out why. So next, please. you would see Singapore itself, we are very small. And for today's presentation, I'm only going to talk about the Sentosa Island, which is an island, if you could see below in red. It's an island that's reserved for resorts and also some residential staying. The residential part, we're not going to talk about it today because that's more of the, your high net worth individuals, usually not the locals who are staying there. And even if they do, they are probably a very different demographic from the rest of the main island in Singapore. So what we're going to talk about today is just the resorts, the hotels, F&B establishments within the Sentosa itself. Next, please. So a little bit about Sentosa, and I have to caveat again, I'm not from Sentosa, so I might be butchering some of the things, but this is really their vision and mission. So it's, to be one of the best loved leisure and lifestyle resort destination. And I think you can see below, they have many, many different attractions. So the impact that this, guidebook that could bring is quite huge as well, provided that, of course, the stakeholder engagement goes quite far and there's enough resources and motivation for them to go far. Next. So what is this collaboration about? So SDC is Sentosa Development Corporation. They are a government statutory body under the Ministry of Trade. So they are part government in that sense, but they do also have, some of the business-mindedness in their operations. So Sentosa Playbook is a playbook on how to reduce disposables within the Sentosa Island itself, and I'll go through some examples. This is actually the first precinct level disposable guidebook in Singapore. Many a times it is a one-to-one kind of a corporate type of guidebook. So let's say with some specific hotel or specific restaurant, we might create a guidebook for them, but this is on a larger scale. We also provide guidance on best practices, how to monitor progress and innovate, and certain case studies. It's also good to know that many of these companies, some of them are very far in advance, especially those that are international hotels. There are some that are small, medium enterprises that are still struggling with as simple as resources, having somebody to turn up to all these meetings and roundtables. They are at a very different phase. Within this guidebook or playbook, they have 16 measures to reduce disposables. They're grouped into 6 different categories, from takeaway bags, food containers, amenity kits, and so on. And behind this is actually SDC's or Sentosa's larger commitment to stop giving out plastic bottled water by the end of 2023 for all hotels, F&B operators, and attractions on Sentosa Island. That includes, if you guys are familiar with, the Universal Studios as well. So I've included a link there, but I realize you can't really click on it. So you can just Google WWF and Sentosa, and you should be able to find the guidebook. Next, please. So this is some snapshots. What we have identified in terms of key players here would be the integrated resorts. So that's the Resorts World Singapore, hotels. So there are many, many luxury hotels housed in Sentosa as well. Why I put the emphasis on luxury is also that draws in a specific crowd as well. So you probably will not see the budget travelers in that sense for such hotels. F&B restaurants. So those are just your beach clubs, your various restaurants in the areas, and attractions. Next, please. Yes, so our playbook also looks at, for each of these opportunities, what are the different impacts that you could get? What are the different implementation complexities that you get? So we sort of created a matrix. We've spoken to a couple of various stakeholders as well to come to that conclusion on what kind of challenges they may face. Next. So this is one example on single-use bottled water. So I realize many of the speakers today, we've also touched on this because I really do think it's the lowest hanging fruit, especially in Singapore's context. So on average, 1 in 3 bottles are used by each person weekly. And the sad thing is tap water in Singapore is well within the World Health Organization's guidelines for drinking water quality. So actually bottled water is not necessary, but a lot of us are grown up with that mindset that, oh, you shouldn't drink water from the tap. you should be boiling water, or bottled water is safer, things like that. So a couple of recommendations we have is, we should have water dispensers and refill points to reduce the need for disposable bottles. So this is, of course, easily adopted by many hotels because they have a physical infrastructure there. Many of them also have filtered water dispensers within either within the rooms itself or within certain parts of the hotel that's readily and conveniently available for folks. Also avoiding switching to paper products or multi-layered materials for water. So this part is also in line with our separate tool called the alternative materials tool, where different companies can also look at, hey, if I am shifting materials, let's say from plastic to paper to Tetra Pak, what kind of impact does that actually have in the Singapore context in terms of carbon or otherwise? Some of the examples we've provided, and actually within Singapore itself, water dispensers and refill points are very, very common. There's a lot of case studies that they can learn from, like our Singapore Center, sports centers, bus interchange stations as well. Next. Just one more example, amenity kits. So for Singapore's context, larger hotels, actually the recycling rate is really very low. And only 28% of the amenity kits were actually used all the time by hotel guests. So a couple of recommendations here is to remove less frequently used items and give only on demand. There's also a survey done with consumers to see whether they actually mind such a thing, and most of them say, hey, no, I understand it's for the environment, I'm happy to just call customer service. There's a shift towards liquid dispensers as well. So as you can see from the photo below, it's a larger bottle. Soap tablets. So soap tablets have also reduced in size to reduce the amount of waste and also the packaging. And we encourage all of them to work with another partner, for example, like Soap Cycling, which is a organization here that collects and redistributes discarded soap. So they remold it and then they give it out to migrant workers and various communities in the region. Next. So this is some materials for stakeholders to get started. These are really just screenshots from the playbook itself. Very happy to share it via Stephania if you guys need the link. The idea is really to make it very simple for anyone who might not have a sustainability experience. Somebody from marketing, for example, or communications can very quickly gather such baseline data and start the sustainability journey. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Stephanie, really. And yes, for people who want to know more about the Sentosa case, please type, WWF Sentosa, and you find, all the guidelines plus, on the Plastic Smart City platform. We also, regularly provide updates. I'm giving now the word to Svetlana, who will continue the moderation with the tourism business sector.
Thank you so much, Stefania. And first of all, I wanted to thank and congratulate our previous speakers in the first part of the panel, because I was genuinely impressed. For instance, the figure from Sentosa of 28% of amenities were actually used all the time. This is so useful and so precious to have this information. So genuinely grateful for this information. I was taking notes all along the first session of the webinar, and I was so proud listening to presentation from Paris because I'm a Parisian, so I was amazing, and the Barcelona example was so inspiring. And also wanted to say to Rusa that it's also extremely precious to have examples from smaller cities, because the scale is certainly different, but you have also different challenges and different means of implementation. So it's also extremely inspiring to have these examples. So now let's move to the second part of this webinar, which will be discussing the actions of businesses and how businesses can support tackling this issue on the level of cities, on the level of municipalities. And we have two GTPI signatories together with us, and both of them represent also businesses of different scale, which I think is very important, and we'll be addressing the issue of also the collaboration on value chain level and why it's absolutely important and absolutely key to engage all of the stakeholders that are relevant. And we had already the examples with the representatives from different cities and destinations earlier today. So for our first speaker is Vasilis Karakousis, Sustainability Director of Costa Navarino. And Vasilis will present us innovative solutions that he is implementing in Greece. So over to you, Vasilis. We are very much looking forward to your presentation. And I guess you will be sharing your slides, so please go ahead. So we can see the slides, but I think you're muted, Vasilis.
Okay, I know.
We can hear you now.
Yeah,
Thank
you, Svetlana. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. I'm Vasilis Karakousis, the Sustainability Director of TEMES. It's a great honor to be part of this distinguished panel, and I would like to extend my sincere thanks to WWF and to the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative for the invitation. Today, I will present you the things we have achieved so far in our effort to reduce single-use plastics in TEMES and our facilities in Costa Navarino. But first, just a few words about TEMES, just to put things into context. TEMES is a leading investor, developer, and operator of sustainability, high-end tourism and real estate destinations in Greece. And Costa Navarino is our flagship investment in Messenia, comprising of 5-star hotels, private residences, signature golf courses, and many year-round facilities. Costa Navarino is one of the largest ongoing tourism and real estate projects in the Mediterranean, and is developed in 4 unique locations in an overall area of more than 1,000 hectares. It started operation with the first area in Navarino Dunes in 2010, an area that is now almost completed, and continues the development in the other areas. In 2023, we opened our new hotel, Mandarin Oriental Costa Navarino in Navarino Bay, and we continue our development. The overall investment upon completion will exceed 2.5 billion, including the investment in real estate. The success of Costa Navarino is directly linked with the development of the overall destination of Messenia throughout value creation that is shared with our stakeholders. Our vision is to establish Messenia and Costa Navarino as a paradigm sustainable destination that people from all over the world wish not only to visit, but also to live there. Sustainability for us lies at the heart of our philosophy. Environmental protection, respect for local traditions, and cooperation with local communities for the sustainable development of the overall destination are the key drivers for the development of Costa Navarino. Just a few numbers to showcase the work we do in sustainability and in the development of the local community. 3.5 billion euros is the direct and indirect contribution to the local economy. 11% contribution to Messenia's GDP from the operation of the investment, up to 2,500 associates working for us during high season, development of new business opportunities in the area of tourism, alternative tourism, hospitality, and F&B, and a tremendous increase, 435% in international flights, arrivals in Kalamata Airport since the operation of Costa Navarino. In the environmental protection, our development, more than 90% of the area of the development is dedicated to natural or landscape green areas. We run the biggest olive tree transplanting program in Europe. Messenia is full of olive trees, and during our construction, we do not cut any trees. So we transplanted more than 7,000 olive trees and planted more than 1.2 million of endemic plants in our developments. We run programs for protecting sensitive ecosystems around Costa Navarino, like the ecosystem of Yalova Lagoon. You see the picture of the flamingos, and species like Careta careta, in cooperation with NGOs and local authorities. And together with Stockholm University and the Academy of Athens, in 2009, we established Navarino Environmental Observatory, a scientific observatory dedicated to the study of climate change. We run a sustainable water management program with infrastructure of reservoirs covering a capacity of 1.2 million cubic meters that is filled with surface water from local rivers to be used for irrigation during the summer months. We try to minimize energy needs of our buildings using bioclimatic architecture and advanced materials and systems installed. We managed to reduce by 80% our operational emissions compared with 2019, and our aim is to achieve net zero operations by 2050. Of course, we commit to sourcing 100% of our electricity from renewable sources. And we run a sustainable waste management campaign focusing on minimizing waste and promoting circular economy practices. Our single-use plastics initiative is part of this campaign. We've been a member of the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative since 2021. And together with WWF, we started an ambitious program for minimizing the use of unnecessary single-use plastics in all of our facilities in Costa Navarino. The year of the pandemic held us a bit back in progress, but from 2022, we picked up pace, and I believe we achieved significant results. I'm going to share with you. We managed to reduce by 48% the single-use plastics in guest-related areas and by 75% the plastics in our rooms. We're proud to say that the rooms of our new hotel, the Mandarin Oriental, are all plastic-free. In plastic bags, we decreased the use by 84% in guest-related areas, and the water bottle, we decreased the use by 59% compared with figures from 2019. In all our facilities, we have eliminated the following categories of plastics: the cotton buds in 2020, steers and straws 21, takeaway cutleries and takeaway cups in 22, toothbrushes and toothpaste, shower cups and laundry bags in 23. All of them, in cooperation with our suppliers, have been replaced with non-plastic alternatives. We run a pilot software for reporting and monitoring our plastics. Here you can see the plastics in different categories, in different areas, back of house, guest rooms, so we can monitor our performance. And of course, we continue our effort to further decrease the use of plastic bottle by installing water fountains, water coolers in several areas of the resort. And we encourage our guests to refill their bottles, their reusable bottles and flasks, or even get the reusable bottle of Costa Navarino that it is available in several outlets within our resorts. The project is ongoing. As I said, we continue our cooperation with WWF. And this year we focus specifically on our supply chain in our cooperation with our suppliers. We're establishing suppliers' performance criteria on the recyclability and the percentage of recycled plastic used in the products that they provide to us. In cooperation with our suppliers, we try to further reduce the plastic in the packaging, and we target a 50% reduction this year in guest-related single-use plastics in all our facilities. Again, we try to, together with our suppliers, to find alternative solutions in plastic items that are still in our inventory. And finally, in cooperation with local authorities and WWF, we're planning to organize awareness raising and knowledge dissemination campaigns focusing on local businesses to share with them the knowledge and the experience gained during the implementation of our single-use plastic reduction initiative. Please feel free to ask any question on the discussion later on. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so very much, Vasilis, and great example, and thank you very much for your openness and all of this great details. So I mentioned already several times during my intervention that value chain collaboration is absolutely key So I don't think I need to convince anyone here at this stage. Just wanted to hear from you a bit more examples. So from your perspective, can you share with us some cases where collaboration with suppliers allowed you to progress on your journey towards the further elimination of single-use plastics from your operations, and what was the process? So
Yes, thank you, Svetlana. Indeed, the cooperation with suppliers is a key factor for success because in many cases you need to see the overall impact that the decision has to the supply chain and not just focusing on one supplier or one item. A typical example is the plastic bottles for us because we wanted to eliminate plastic bottles from the rooms and replace them with glass bottles. But then we have to see the whole circularity of this decision and find out what can be done with the used glass bottles, because as mentioned before, recycling is not always an option because, for example, the recycling of glass is an energy intensive and emission intensive process. So in cooperation with our water supplier, we managed to establish a new facility for them. They made an investment in a new facility that could reuse all the glass bottles. So the glass bottles that we use in our hotels are taken back from our supplier and reused, closing the circle of the product. So I think this is a good example of how you can see the circularity. And another one is a typical example of an item, of an amenity item, which is the slippers that you can find in all hotels. As the slippers used to be wrapped in plastic, so we cooperated with our supplier, and now they changed the packaging, and then now it's from textile, and that created a saving in plastics.
thank you so much, Vasilisi. And I'm very, very happy that you mentioned also the importance of the life cycle perspective and also looking at the potential impacts that it can have on other aspects than plastic pollution, because obviously, even though we are talking here about reduction of plastic pollution, we can't extract ourselves for the rest of the world, and we need to take into considerations issues that can potentially be impacted related to climate change, to food waste, so on. So that's very interesting also to hear an example of this perspective from your end. Thank you so much. So our next speaker is Christian de Boer from Jaya House. And if I may, it's not only GTPI signatory, it's almost our may I ask colleagues to mute themselves because I can hear myself twice. Thank you so much. So I was saying, and apologies for this interruption, Christian, a few weeks ago, actually represented GTPI signatories in New York at the event organized by the President of the United Nations General Assembly to present the excellent solutions that he has been implementing for the past years in Jaya House, but not only. Today, he will be presenting specifically an initiative called Refill Not Landfill. So this will be the focus of his presentation, because we saw that it makes also very interesting linkages between the private sector initiatives and also what private sector can offer to cities and to destinations just beyond their own local action. So over to you, Christian, and very much looking forward to your presentation.
Just before we enter the last presentation, I wanted to remind that we are approaching the Q&A session. So if you want to, please, type your questions, so we are collecting them and we will ask, our panelists. Thanks. And over to you, Christian.
Thank you, guys. It is indeed an honor to be here, and it's actually really quite exciting what destinations like Paris and Barcelona and the other small village in the Mediterranean are doing. There's hope, basically. Well, Jaya House River Park, a tiny hotel in Siem Reap, Cambodia, one of the poorest countries in the world. We opened 6.5 years ago. And the goal for the hotel was to be single-use plastic right from day one. We had a couple of pillars, indeed, as I said, single-use plastic free, but also only full-time employment. We wanted to be the best hotel in the country, and I wanted to have money for English classes. So those were the pillars on which we operate the hotel. But that means we're different. That means we're different from other hotels. So we had to cut. And we had to cut on expenses. And one of the main things we cut on was sales and marketing. We do not do any sales and marketing. We've never traveled. We've never gone anywhere. We've never spent a single dollar in advertising. We work 100% by word of mouth. It is right now 2024. And that means the likes of Instagram, the likes of TripAdvisor, the likes of Google are now playing a critical role. People now want to see actions. People want to see results. Where 10 years ago, some kind of hotel could come up with the slogan of, at this hotel, we care for the environment, save a towel when we'll plant a tree. That's 20 years ago, because where are those trees? And now in 2024, thanks to Google, we can find out if those trees have actually been planted or if it was merely a marketing tool. Now, Jaya House has been the #1 in Cambodia for 6 years, has been in the top 25 hotels in the world for 5 years now. We've had 0 complaints. We're the busiest hotel in town, and we're rather outspoken and a proud partner indeed of the One Planet network. I'm saying all of that because I want to showcase that the world is ready. The tourists are ready. The consumers are ready, and the consumers now choose us because of it. We are indeed the co-founder of Refill Not Landfill. As the gentleman earlier just said, plastic water bottles, it's a big deal. In Cambodia, people, since it's a hot country, use about 6 or 7 of them a day. And they stay 3-4 days. So I needed to find an alternative. Now, the answer is enormously simple. We put this particular bottle in each of the rooms. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's a refillable bottle. It's double layered. At home, you can put coffee or tea in it. It will stay warm. And in our case, in Cambodia, put water in it. It will stay cold. On that bottle is a QR code. People can scan the QR code, and using today's technology, using their own personal mobile phone, it will bring the phone directly to a QR code, directly to a Google Earth map, and the Google Earth map will locate the closest refill station to wherever people are. Each of those bottles are indeed placed in the minibar and are actively promoted for guests to take home. Added benefit, pretty damn good marketing. So it works. Now, the participation for those refill locations, because they need to provide our guests free, clean drinking water. Participation is obviously free, and it's solely based on reducing the use of single-use plastic for all of my countries. Now, given the fact the idea is so simple, given the fact the idea it actually works, the idea has now been expanded into 19 countries. 19 countries / destinations have some form of this really very simple initiative. There's no money involved. I don't need money. All I want is to protect the future of the children of my staff. Cambodia will be one of the hardest countries by climate change. We've just had 3.5 weeks of enormous unseasonable heat. It's time we take action. So one of you who is taking action on behalf of my staff's children, thank you. Next slide, please. What about all of those refill locations? Because why would somebody participate in this if in their mind they might lose money? Well, facts have actually shown now that every time a guest walks in with this bottle into a local bar, a local cafe, a local anything else, they actually get incremental revenue, because most of my guests will go into a bar with the aim of filling up their bottle. But whilst they're there, they think, oh, you know what, let's have a coffee, let's have a cake, let's have something else. So there's actually incremental revenue for all of the participants in this initiative. Obviously, it's the feel-good factor, the fact that my guests know that they're not adding even more to the global issue of single-use plastic. For me as a hotel, it's pretty good marketing. And surprisingly, perhaps, not one single piece of negative feedback from any of my guests, from anyone at all, in almost, I think it's now 7.5 years of operation, not one single negative comment. The consumers are ready for it. The consumers actually want it, but they want honesty and they want sincerity. Next slide. Now, what about the costs for me as a little hotel? Each bottle is approximately €3. That's if you obviously buy them in bulk. But it also becomes a souvenir and or a marketing tour. Each bottle replaces approximately 9 single-use plastic water bottles. So the results are really quite big. The results are quite obvious. Now, that is obviously partially because we're in a hot country and the temperature last week was 39 degrees. So people do need to drink a lot of water. So this alternative, it works, and the results are really quite quick and quite obvious. Next slide. Now, this initiative, given the fact that it's so simple, it doesn't cost much money, it doesn't cost much effort, it could really quite easily be replicated in any destination, in any city, in any country, or in any region. I am more than happy to have individual Zoom calls with people to explain how this works and how simple it could be and how simply it could be initiated in any country, in any destination. The next slide. Now, some of the other initiatives that we have done to eliminate. So I'm actually very intrigued by the presentation of the gentleman in Greece, mainly because I'm looking right now at toothpaste tablets, and or in a fourth version. But some of the other things that we've done is indeed the bamboo straws, the glass bottles in the rooms. We buy local and deliver everything indeed in linen bags. We insist on the fact that it has to be plastic free, mainly because we've seen that the market will adapt very quickly. People do want to sell. And if it means that they have to take it out of plastic and put it in something else, they will do that in order to get that sale. And for us here in Siem Reap, Cambodia, we make our own. We make our own shampoo. We make our own, all of those things, under the banner of Jai Organics, which again has been taken up by a lot of people and is now a lot of my guests actually buy some of our Jai Organics products to bring home, all completely chemical free, all of this fitting the image of the hotel and the philosophy of the hotel. So my advice to everyone, don't give up, continue, and change is happening. Change is happening. The consumers are ready, and the early bird catches the worm. It's obviously difficult in the beginning, but afterwards you get the results. And at the UN presentation in New York, I made the comment of, I cannot change my world. No, I can't change the world, but I can change my world. And I think that is valid for all of us. And we will, over time, we'll get with more and more people, and we have the future. So thank you very much for all of your efforts, and let's inspire people. My dream, as I have just explained all of this, is for this initiative is to be taken over by many other countries, many other places, and in the hope of collectively saving more millions and millions of bottles from ending up in the environment. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Christian. And I love so much listening to you because your presentations are truly inspiring, not because only you're providing very innovative solutions, but because your message is, it's actually not that difficult, guys, and the world is ready. So let's just do it. And it just gives so much hope So genuinely grateful to you. Just a very short follow-up questions, and you touched based on this very rapidly. I wanted to know a bit more, what's the business model behind the usage of this single-use, this reusable bottles, sorry, not single-use, the other way around, the reusable bottles. Because I guess you mentioned, okay, it costs only €3 in your destination to procure this, but it still costs. And for some hotels, especially small hotels, it can be an important cost in their operations. How do you approach this from a business perspective? What's the business model for you to introduce reusable bottles and offer them to guests? You are muted, Christian.
As I said, sorry, the cost of the bottle is indeed about €3 or $4. Given the fact that people stay on average 3 nights in Siem Reap, and given the fact that it's actually obviously double occupancy, so it's $4 times 2 people is $8, divided by 3 days. We've physically increased our room rates by $3 in order to pay for this. And I can tell you we've had zero change. There's not been many more or less bookings. People haven't even noticed the fact that we've gone up. We've added our increased our rates by $3. So it's perfectly fine. And as I said, and this in contrast to what a lot of people predicted, given the fact that we are so outspoken on this issue, given the fact that it is something we simply don't have plastic water bottles. So if somebody arrives in Cambodia, one of the poorest countries in the world, and I need my water in a plastic bottle, I don't have it. We have seen an increase in bookings. We are the busiest hotel in town, and I would like anyone to look us up on TripAdvisor or on Google. You'll see that we have 0 complaints, none in 8 years. So again, the consumers are ready. The technology is here. What it needs is a couple of lunatics like all of us in just pushing it forward, and we are making a difference. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Christian. Thank you so much, Vasilis. Thank you for your very inspiring interventions. Now I'm handing over to you, Stefania. I believe you have a few minutes left for a Q&A session.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to collect, some of the questions. There is a question to Vasilis from Sibylle saying, with your very high demand, can you commission bottles of soda drinks to provide them in glass bottles?
Yes, if I got it right, it talks about soda bottles not to be plastic.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, definitely. Yes, we are in cooperation with several providers of refreshments and sodas, and most of them are probably the majority of them are glass bottles that also they return back to the supplier for use.
There is also a question from Sibylle again to Stephanie on the pact, and that's a question about whether the pact talks about circularity, including plastic recycling, whether recycling is included within the system.
Right. So thanks for the question. So recycling is part of what PAC is looking at, but it's not really the priority. We are still looking at how we can, your hierarchy, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle, of course, refuse first. So reuse systems is something that we are exploring as WWF Singapore. So one of the upcoming projects is really looking at how we can create and design a reusable F&B container system for the central business district area within Singapore. How can we get different restaurants and offices on board to reuse rather than recycle? Because often I think you can see in the chat as well, there's some controversy around it, and for F&B containers, often it's contaminated and so the recycling is a bit more challenging. Thanks.
I don't see any further question. There was a question again from Sibylle regarding soda drinks available in glass bottles, again, for Vasilis. Other question from participants? You can simply raise your hands and step in and ask you directly your question. We have about 80 people and no question. Okay, in the meantime, while we wait, Svetlana, I give it to you if you want to ask a question to our city's representatives.
Yes, I did have a question actually to our city's representative. Thank you so much, Stefania. And also because I very rapidly mentioned that right now our team in the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative, we are working on policy recommendations that would be targeting, of course, tourism policymakers, but also would be relevant for cities and municipalities. So I would like to know from our representatives from City of Paris, of Barcelona, as well as from Trogir. So we are well aware that often policies such as plastic bans, for instance, or even incentives with regards to reduction of plastics, they are pertaining to the authority of national governments. And often also these policies are quite cross-sectoral and they don't necessarily focus on the tourism sector. So from your city perspective, what type of support from national governments, including policy-wise, would you really feel like you would need, like first thing that would come to your mind, like first priority that you would name that would really help you to effectively implement what you're doing right now on the ground on the level of cities? Should we start first with Lila, maybe in the order of presenters?
Thank you very much, Svetlana. It's a really good question indeed. The first support we would need from national authorities, and we already suggested it in the national law, but it was not accepted. We would like, as some American cities, to have the right to implement local ban on zero single-use plastic. We were really dreaming about the example of San Francisco. This is not possible actually at for French regulation. And the second wish that we would have, we were having a really a very good law in 2020 called AGEC law. This is a French acronym, sorry. And it banned a lot of single-use plastic, and it needs to go further because this law has been a great support to implement, to foster the change for private actors in City of Paris. They were needing some support to mentor the transition, but we need to pursue this. And to ban false alternative, because when we saw a ban on plastic bottles for mineral water, we saw cardboard packaging cardboard bottles for mineral water, aluminium bottles for mineral water. It's like no sense alternative. So to foster the change, but in the right direction.
Thank you so much, Leila. That's super interesting. I hope also I will have an opportunity to go a bit deeper with regards to these matters, maybe interviewing you bilaterally if possible in relation to our work on policies. May I ask Elena to jump in and then also provide your insights? What would be your wish list?
Yeah, for us would be also very nice to have this local van. I was thinking the same that Lila just pointed out on single-use plastic, because we are very tight, and what we do is what we can do, that it's to incentivize our local taxes or our local prices, no, for services, with a reduction for those who do it well. And that's one of the poor incentives that we can give to the businesses that are doing the job right. No, for us, I think it also would be good if from our national government, the system for collecting the recyclable plastics would be the deposit and reuse one, because they chose to have this integrated system, which I think is very inefficient. And if we could have this deposit refund system that it's in place in many countries in Europe, I think this would also help to reduce single-use plastic.
Thank you so much, Elena. That's super interesting. May I hand over to Rosa, and very much looking forward to your perspective also on this.
Thank you. As I mentioned in my presentation, the national and governmental support will be very helpful for us, especially in creating like technical protocols in reducing single-use plastic and in waste management for those cities who are gaining their effort in that direction. Also, very helpful would be funds on the national level. We have a national fund of environmental projects and they are funding at this moment. They created like a financial period of grants on some projects which are very advanced for our for little cities like Trogir, like in electric cars or something. But we would appreciate like grants on the smaller scale for projects like this, just to give us and the small businesses more important grants for like even symbolical support for their efforts in reducing single-use packaging and plastic.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Indeed, it totally makes sense to have also funding schemes that are more adapted to the cities like yours. And yeah, absolutely. Notes taking. Thank you so much. Stefania, over to you.
Yes, briefly, as we have 3 minutes left. First of all, I want to highlight the message from Ignacy Matteo, who highlighted the fact that in order to raise the voice of cities and subnational governments, in the INC for the Plastic Treaty, ICLEI, Government of Quebec and Catalonia launched a statement last INC4. So I invite you to go to the chat box and have a look at the statement of cities that have joined together, calling, for a global plastic treaty. And Rosa mentioned, the importance of a national, national governments, and we would say also, subnational, global rules, and so the role of the global treaty can help really in improving coherent approach in design of products, coherent waste management system, providing solution, and also then grants and public and private investments in the right direction. There is a last question from somebody anonymous who is asking, how can deposit and return system be implemented at the level of cities in order to increase reuse? So we've been talking a lot about reuse today as well. Leila, Helena, if you want just to give a last voice of how it can be implemented.
This is a good question as well. Thank you. We are implementing a reuse system in two neighborhoods of Paris. One in the northern part of Paris this summer, and another one next year on the riverbank of La Seine. What is the challenge is that we are dealing with different enterprise, bar, restaurants, each of them with their different constraints. How do we harmonize reusable containers, the financial flow, and everything? This is the most challenge for us. Basically, shopkeepers are more and more keen to do this transition because we are supported by the French law, which is forbidding disposable containers for food on place, not for takeaway, but for food to eat in the restaurant when you have 20 person to be sit or to be not seated. So this is a good support from the law, but we want to go further. The big challenge is how to have a dialogue and to put this reuse system with different shopkeepers because they have a different constraint, but we are working on it.
Thanks a lot. I see that we have reached the end of our webinar. I first would like to thank you, all the participants who have been with us until the very end. Thank you for all of you, I mean, all the panelists, for your very inspiring solution, but also realistic solution, things that you've really put in place and the effort you're putting on it in order, to bring a change that goes beyond your individual city, your individual business. I would like to thank Svetlana for being with us. I mean, join forces. I hope, we will have more of these webinars. I seen also somebody asked, if we can continue to grow this group of cities and businesses and even visit. I mean, I vote for Sentosa. And but please, it was a real pleasure to have you with us today. We're gonna, as I was saying, the webinar is recorded, so we're gonna send the registration so that you can go back to the slides, the presentations, and get in contact, with the various speakers if you want to know more about how they make it happen. I would like to finish with a few words. I steal some words from Christian. The world is ready and the market will adapt. So thanks a lot. Thank you all for being with us today. And I wish you a very continuation and end of the day. Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.